These are top 10 mind-blowing revelations as discussed on Joe Rogan Podcast. Episode number 2404, Joe Rogan with Elon Musk. Joe Rogan uncovers massive government fraud and AI's role in fixing debt.
That's the nature of the scam. It's a bank shot. So then the rebuttal from the Dems is like, oh, well, the vast majority of the people who are marked as live in the Social Security Administration weren't receiving Social Security Administration payments. That is true. What they forgot to mention is they're getting fraudulent payments from every other government program. And that's why the Dems were so opposed to turning off, to declaring someone dead who was dead, because it would stop the entire all the other fraud from happening.
And so, but all this, is it trackable? Like all this other fraud,
it's totally
if they
trackable.
wanted to, they could chase it all down.
Yeah, it's not even hard.
And yet they're opposing chasing it all down.
They're opposing chasing it all down because it turns off the money magnet for the illegals.
Wow. Because
it's very logical to like I'm saying the most common sense things possible. If someone's got a birthday in Social Security that is an impossible birthday, meaning they are older than the oldest living American or were born in the future, then you should call them and say, excuse me, we seem to have your birthday wrong because it says that you're 200 years old. That's all you need to do. And
then you would remove them from the Social Security database and make that number no longer available for all those other government payments.
Exactly.
Wow. And how much money are we talking?
It's hundreds of billions of dollars.
And this is all traceable. Like you could hunt all this down.
Like you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes here, is what I'm saying.
Well,
we don't need to call Sherlock Holmes for this one.
Is this part of
the... We just need to call the person and say, excuse me, we seem to have the... we must have your birthday wrong because it says you're 200 years old or were born in the future. So could you tell us what your birthday is? That's all you need to do. It's that simple.
But all these other government payments that are available that are connected to this Social Security number, it seems like if you just chased that all down, you would find the widespread fraud. You would find where it's going.
Yes, but the root of the problem is the Social Security Administration database, because the Social Security number in the United States is used as a de facto national ID number. That's why, like, the bank always asks for your social. So, like, any financial institution will ask for your Social Security number.
It sounds so insane that this isn't chased down. I mean,
I agree.
That in and of itself that's such mishandling.
Yes. No, it's mind blowing. So yeah, it's crazy.
Well, you were very reluctant last time you were here to talk about the extent of some of the fraud, because you're like, they could kill me because this is kind of.
What I was saying is that, to be pragmatic and realistic, you actually can't manage to zero fraud. You can manage to low fraud number, but not to zero fraud. If you manage to zero fraud, you're going to push so many people over the edge who are receiving fraudulent payments that the number of inbound homicidal maniacs will be really hard to overcome. So I'm actually taking, I think, quite a reasonable position, which is that we should simply reduce the amount of fraud, which I think is not an extremist position. And we should aspire to, have less fraud over time. Not that we should be ultra draconian and eliminate every last scrap of fraud, which I guess would be nice to have, but like we don't even need to go that extreme. I'm saying we should just stop the blatant, large-scale, super obvious fraud. I think that's a reasonable position.
It's a very reasonable position.
Yeah.
And so what was the most shocking pushback that you got when you started implementing Doge, when you started investigating into where money was going?
Well, I guess I should have anticipated this, but while most of the fraudulent government payments especially to the NGOs, go to the Democrats, most of it, like, I don't know, for argument's sake, let's say 80%, maybe 90%, 10 to 20% of it does go to Republicans. And so when we turn off funding to a fraudulent NGO, we'd get complaints from whatever, the 10% of Republicans who are receiving the money. And they would, they would very loudly complain. Because the honest answer is the Republicans are partly, they're receiving some of the fraud too. They're getting a vig.
Jesus.
Yeah. I want to be clear. It's not like the Republican Party is some
No.
ultra pure paragon of virtue here.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, you see that with the congressional insider trading. It's across the board.
Yeah.
It's left and right.
I mean, the whole uniparty criticism has some validity to it. There's and it's like if you turn off fraudulent payments, it's not like I said, it's not like 100% of those payments were going to Democrats. A small percentage were also going to Republicans. Those Republicans complain very loudly. And that's so there was a lot of pushback on the Republican side when we started cutting some of these funds. And I tried telling them, like, well, 90% of the money is going to your opponents, but they still, even if they're getting 10% of the money,
They want their piece.
Yeah, they want their piece.
And they've been getting that piece for a long time.
Yes.
Did you
This
think...
is why, politics is like...
It's dirty business.
Yeah, I mean, that's like saying if you like sausages and respect the law, do not watch either of them being made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's not even true because I've made sausage before.
Yeah. It's actually
It's not that big a deal.
It's
You add
much better than
fat and
politics.
spices and casing, run it through the machine. Not that big a deal.
Yeah. I mean, I think the stuff I'm saying here is not like if you stand back and think about it for a second, like, oh yeah, that makes sense,
Yeah.
It's not like it's not like one political party is going to be pure devil or pure angel. There's I think there's much more corruption on the Democrat side, but there's still some corruption on the Republican side.
How
too.
did it happen that the majority of the corruption wound up being on the Democrat side?
Well, because the transfer payments, especially to illegals, are very much on the Democrat side.
So that's the root of it all, is the illegal situation.
Yes, I mean there's
Or a focal point.
Yes, it's also like it would also be accurate to say that while obviously not everyone who's a Democrat is a criminal, almost everyone who is a criminal is a Democrat. because the Democrats are the soft on crime party. So if you're a criminal, who are you going to vote for?
Right.
The soft on crime party.
Did you think you were going to be able to get more done than you were?
We did get a lot done.
Right.
And Doge is still happening, by the way. The Doge is still underway. There's still waste and fraud being cut by the Doge team. So it hasn't stopped.
It's less publicized.
It's less publicized, and they don't have like a clear person to attack anymore.
Well, it seems like once you stepped away,
they're basically they applied immense pressure to me to stop it. So then I'm like, the best thing for me is to just cut out of this. And in any case, as a special government employee, I could only be there for like 120 days anyway, something like that. So whatever the law says. So I was necessarily could only be there for 4 months as a special government employee. So, yeah, I mean, you turn off the money spigot to fraudsters, they get very upset, to say the least. But my death threat level went ballistic. Was like a rocket going to orbit. Yeah. So, but now that I'm not in D.C., I guess they don't really have a person to attack anymore.
Well, the rhetoric about you has calmed down significantly.
Yeah.
It was disturbing. It was disturbing to watch. It was like, this is crazy. And to watch these politicians engage in it and all these people just like framing you as this monster. I was like, this is so weird. Like, this is what happens when you uncover fraud.
Yes.
The whole machine turns on you. And if it wasn't for a person like you who owns a platform and has an enormous amount of money, like, it could have destroyed you.
Yeah.
And that was the goal.
The goal was to destroy me, absolutely.
Because you were getting in the way
of
this amazing graft.
This gigantic fraud machine.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think those teams done a lot of good work. In terms of fraud and waste prevented, my guess is it's probably on the order of $200 or $300 billion a year. So it's pretty good.
What do you think could have been done if you just had like full reign and total cooperation? How much do you think you could have saved?
I mean, what level of power are we assuming here?
Godlike.
Oh yeah, I could probably cut the federal budget in half and get more done.
That is so crazy. It is so crazy
Yeah,
that it's
get more done and federal budget in half.
widespread. It's that widespread.
Well, I mean, a whole bunch of government departments simply shouldn't exist, in my opinion.
Like examples.
Well, the Department of Education, which was created recently, like under Jimmy Carter, our educational results have gone downhill ever since it was created. So if you create a department and the result of creating that department is a massive decline in educational results, and it's the Department of Education, you're better off not having it, because we did better before there was one than after.
When you let the states run it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because at least the states can compete with one another. But the problem is, like, you hear like cutting Department of Education. Well, our kids need education. Like, yeah, they do. But this is a new department that didn't even exist, until the late 70s. And ever since that department was created, the educational results have declined. And so why would you have an institution continue that has made education worse? It doesn't make sense.
They killed it, though, right?
No, there's still, unfortunately.
But they were trying to kill it.
It has been substantially reduced.
Okay. What other organizations? What other departments?
Well, I mean, I'm a small government guy, so when the country was created, we just had the Department of State, Department of War, and sort of the Department of Justice. We had an Attorney General and Treasury Department. I don't know why you need more than that.
So what other departments specifically do you think are just completely ineffective?
Well, here it's like a question. It's a sort of philosophical question of how much government do you think there should be?
Right.
In my opinion, there should be the least amount of government.
I've heard the most bizarre argument against this is that you're cutting jobs and you're going to leave people jobless. And I'm like, but their jobs are useless.
Paying people to do nothing doesn't make sense.
Right.
Like there's a great it's a story about like Milton Friedman, who is awesome. Generally whatever Milton Friedman said is, people should do that thing. I'm not sure if it's apocryphal or not, but like someone complained to him, like he observed, I think, people that were like digging ditches with shovels, and he said, well, like allegedly Freeman said, well, I think you should use excavating equipment instead of shovels, and you could get it done with far fewer people. And then someone said, well, but then we're going to lose a lot of jobs. Well, then Friedman says, well, in that case, why don't you have them use teaspoons? just dig ditches with teaspoons. Think of all the jobs you'll create. It's bullshit. Basically, you just want people to work on things that are productive. You want people to work on on building things, on building, providing products and services that people find valuable, like making food, being a farmer or a plumber or electrician or just anyone who's a builder or providing useful services, and that's what you want people to be doing, not fake government jobs that don't add any value or may subtract value. There's also to illustrate the absurdity of how is the economy measured, like the way economists measure the economy is nonsensical, because they'll measure any job, no matter, even if that job is a dumb job that has no point and is even counterproductive. So the joke is like there's two economists going on a hike in the woods, and they come across a pile of shit, and one economist says to the other, "I'll pay you $100 to eat that shit." So the economist eats the shit, gets the $100. They keep walking. Then the other then they come across another pile of shit, and the other economist says, "Now I'll pay you $100 to eat the pile of shit." So he pays the other economist $100 to pile of shit. Then the way they said, "Look, wait a second. We both just ate a pile of shit, and we don't have any more extra money. Like we both, you just gave the $100 back to me, and we both ate a pile of shit. This doesn't make any sense." And they said, no, but think of the economy, because that's $200 of that in the economy. That basically then measure eating shit would count as a job. This is to illustrate the absurdity of economics.
One of the things you said when
eating shit should not count as a job.
One of the things you said when you stepped away is that you're kind of done and that it's unfixable. That or under its current form, the way people are approaching it.
You can make it directionally better, but ultimately you can't fully fix the system. It would be accurate to say that even unless you could go like super draconian, like Genghis Khan level on cutting waste and fraud, which you can't really do in a democratic country, an aspirationally democratic country, then there's no way to solve the debt crisis. So we got national debt that's just insane, where the interest payments on the debt exceed our entire military budget. I mean, that was one of the wake-up calls for me. I was like, wait a second, the interest on a national debt is bigger than the entire military budget, and growing. This is crazy. So even if you implement all these savings, you're only delaying the day of reckoning for when America goes bankrupt. So, unless you go full Genghis Khan, which you can't really do. So, so I came to the conclusion that the only way to get us out of the debt crisis and to prevent America from going bankrupt is AI and robotics. So, like, we need to grow the economy at a rate that allows us to pay off our debt. I guess people just generally don't appreciate the degree to which the government overspending is a problem. But even like the Social Security website, this is under the Biden administration. On the website, it would say like we based on current demographic trends and how much money Social Security is bringing in versus how many Social Security recipients there are, because we have an aging population. Relatively speaking, the average age is increasing. Social Security will not be able to maintain its full payments, I think, by 2032. So Social Security will have to start reducing the amount of money that's been paid to people in about 7 years.
And so the only way to fix that, robotics, manufacturing, raise GDP.
You've got to basically massively increase the economic output, and the only way to do that is AI and robotics. So basically, we're going bankrupt without AI and robotics, even with a bunch of savings. The savings, like reducing waste and fraud, can give us a longer runway, but it cannot ultimately pay off our national debt.
In episode number 2414 with Brian Simpson, Joe Rogan exposes Epstein's $300 million payouts and elite cover-ups.
Do you know that there's the amount of money that's been paid out to victims of Jeffrey Epstein is like $300 million so far?
From where?
I don't know. Is that true?
Yeah, but there's also a bunch of money that just moved after he died that no one really understands either.
This is all so sketchy.
Bro, I'm telling you, a lot of
It's
people,
so
if they
sketchy.
really release this shit in earnest, it's gonna change everything. I hope it's that powerful.
Do you think it will be?
Well, all I know is
Because-
the most powerful person on earth has been doing a lot to keep that shit from coming out. And I'm not like everybody else. I don't think Trump is in there in a criminal way. But I think he has a lot of powerful friends that have been putting pressure on him to keep that shit under wraps.
I think that definitely has to
I
be
think
the
it's going to be
case.
royal people. It's going to be prime ministers. It's going to be Supreme Court justices. It's going to be all type
Former
of motherfuckers.
presidents.
Yeah, some big CEOs.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be all type of shit in there.
Scientists.
Get it out.
Yeah.
Get it out. Yeah. The world already. There's nothing to lose for America as a whole.
What a crazy operation they were running. What a crazy thing. To have a bunch of people fly them out to an island that somehow or another you own. Like, where'd you get the money to buy a fucking island, bro?
It's not as expensive as you think.
A whole island?
Yeah, I don't
we
think
looked
so.
at that island.
How
We,
much-
we
oh.
were trying to buy it.
How
we
much is
were
it?
Actually, I shouldn't say we're trying to buy it. We were thinking about it very briefly, but it was too expensive. It was like
What?
55.
It's not discounted now?
That's a discount.
That's the discounted price?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I would imagine it's worth more than that. Like
Yeah.
if you buy a beautiful house in like Miami, a beautiful house in Miami might be $200 million if it's on the ocean. Those like crazy manors in like West Palm Beach.
But it's like, the island's basically haunted. You got to sage
It is
the
now.
whole motherfucking thing.
It's too late. You got to level it to the ground.
Yeah,
you got to
you gotta-
remove the dirt and go get dirt from like
Yeah,
some
this is
pristine
wild.
island. Yeah, you got to remove everything. It would be. That's the same reason why we never bought the One World Theater. The same thing.
Oh, that weird cult.
Yeah, the cult thing. I was like, oh man, there's not enough sage in the world.
Yeah. You had to come out with some holy water, anointing oil.
And that's a beautiful property. But I was like, what do they do to those poor people there?
The truth is, they want to be able to decide whose names get seen and whose names don't. And people aren't with that. Like,
And they shouldn't be with that.
or we agree with this guy, and then we let them Kennedy joints out. We've been waiting for them to think about it. They said the same thing about the Kennedy shit. Well, we don't want to hurt. And every time they're supposed to release it, they kick it down the road.
They released some new Kennedy documents, but no, I never heard anything come out of it.
Yeah, it's supposed to have been released 2 or 3 presidents
There's no
ago.
way those people are alive.
Right. What we know is this. We know that, I forget who said it, but justice delayed is justice denied. The longer we wait, the more we let these fucking snakes kick the can down the road, the more they get to obfuscate and muddy the waters. No, let
You know
all
what
that.
Trump said about the JFK files?
What?
He said, I saw them, and if you saw what I saw, you wouldn't release them either.
That's what I'm screaming.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
I can't even imagine what that means.
What does that mean? What could that mean? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Does that mean a foreign government? Does that mean our government? Does that mean the mafia? Does that mean a coordinated effort with all the above? What does that mean?
I have no idea what it could possibly mean.
That's crazy for something that happened in 1963.
Yeah, and almost everyone involved, almost everyone that could be embarrassed somehow is dead.
62 years ago, man.
So it would have to be something that like destroys an institution or something.
Something.
Like this Epstein shit.
Right.
Like,
But just the sheer amount of people with insane amounts of money that are attached to this.
because my conservative friends be like, they think I give a fuck about a Democrat. They'd be like, "Oh, you with the Bill Clintons in there." Like, I don't give a fuck who in there.
what did they do with the information? What did they do if they did compromise you and they did fly you out to an island, you did have sex with underage girls? What did you do then when you were confronted by the fact that they know this?
Right.
What did you do? Like, what decisions were made? What foreign policy decisions were made? What financial decisions were made?
Yeah.
What money got donated? How much money transferred back and forth to different accounts because of things that happened there?
Yeah.
How many huge international decisions were made by people in powerful positions because someone has a video of them doing something very compromising on an island?
That's why I'm glad that I mean, I might not be very rich or anything, but like if something, you know, if they try to figure out something on me, this would be their research. They'd be like, all right, we found Jeff died. He likes Sprite, you know. He also watches like they'd have nothing. They would just be searching.
But you're not a guy who's trying to run the world.
Yeah.
The thing is, everybody who wants to run the world, everybody who wants to be the president, they're all fucking
They've
crazy.
all done weird shit.
They're fucking crazy. And then they get into a position where they have like ultimate power and they're putting fucking masks on and fucking each other. And I mean, that's skull and bone
It's
stuff.
crazy stuff to me.
Yeah, well, there's always been these weird secret societies of people that get really wealthy and they do kooky things and they wife swap and
It's very strange.
proud. People lose their fucking minds with any kind of power. And then you got the kind of power where you're literally like running the government. You're literally running the
I
whole
still wouldn't
government.
want to do bad stuff. Like it's crazy. Like it's like I guess my brain's too
You don't
simple.
want to run the government.
I know, but if I think to myself, I'm like, it's crazy that there's this much shit on all these powerful people. Like it's crazy.
It's not crazy though, because you think like, what is their pursuit? It's this like very bizarre pursuit because either they really are for the people and they really want to make the world a better place. Well, then you're not going to get anything on them because then they're Bernie Sanders.
right.
You got nothing.
Yeah, they just
You got
yeah.
nothing. He might not be effective, but
Yeah.
you don't have anything on him. That's
Right.
it. He's not going to compromise. He doesn't have to. You got nothing on him. Or you got someone who wants to be a leader for some strange reason, and they're really not that extraordinary, but they're in a really shallow pool of talent.
Right.
Because that's the real truth about running for president or running for governor or running for mayor. Is it's a fucking shallow pool of talent. Because most people that have any kind of fucking talent talking don't want that job.
Right.
Why would I want that job? Why would I
Sounds
want people to
terrible.
fucking shoot at me?
Yeah.
Why would I want half the country to fucking hate me no matter what I do?
Right.
Why would I want to get in and find out that this intertwined web of fucking money and power and influence is no way to fix it?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to sit here for 4 years being a bad guy in a stupid White House. Like,
Yeah.
fuck that.
Because you took a photo with someone. Yeah.
So the people that want that are all out of their fucking minds, and they're all kooks. They're all Gavin Newsoms. They're all Kamala Harris's and Donald Trump's, and they're all kooky people, And some of these kooky people will do a better job than other kooky people, but only kooky people want the job. And until that changes, and until not just kooky people want the job, non-kooky people want the job of being president, but non-kooky people involved in Congress and the Senate and everything. Regular, rational people that can have real conversations and not try to diminish whoever you're talking to in the most reductionist way possible, make them out to be a moron because they're on the other side. The actual solving of problems without you doing it at the behest of these massive corporations that have been donating to you.
In episode 938 with Lawrence Krauss, Joe Rogan hears mind-bending ideas about multiverses and eternal expansion.
What about the ideas that the universe is in a constant state of contraction
No,
and
it isn't.
expansion?
Nah. Well, I mean, some
That's
people
been
think
abandoned?
that. No, it's not been abandoned. Some physicists still argue that there's a cycle because it
Right.
looks nice. And they are,
okay.
but I think most people. I mean, there's some people who are arguing for that.
Do you think they're just trying to tie up something neat?
Well, I think they're trying to tie up their ignorance in something that isn't any more plausible than the picture that it expands forever. And as far as we can tell, the most likely possibility is that our universe will expand forever. But to make you a little bit happier, it's quite possible. The best pictures that we have of the early universe is that our universe isn't unique, isn't alone. That there are many universes. We call it a multiverse. And that at any instant in time, in kind of a cosmic super time, there's always a universe being born. So that multiverse might be infinite and eternal.
Where are they?
Outside of our universe.
How's that even possible?
Of course it's possible.
I understand. I'm not questioning it.
Okay,
I just would like you
here's
to
one.
define it.
Well, first of all, the simplest possibility is that they're outside the region we can see. right? For example, the edges of our visible universe, space is expanding faster away from us than light. Because, we taught you in school nothing can travel faster than light. You may remember that from school.
Right.
We lied. Okay. Well, no, you have to parse it more carefully like a lawyer. Nothing can travel through space faster than light, but space can do whatever the hell it wants. So locally, as I told you, the radio host is at rest. They're not moving, and the other end of the galaxy, at the other end of the visible universe, and we're at rest. But the space between us is expanding, so that galaxy, like a surfer, is being carried away from us faster than light. Relative to the water, the surfer isn't moving, right? But relative to the shore, the surfer is, right?
Right.
Okay, so this galaxy is not moving relative to its local surroundings, but it's moving away from us faster than light. And like a surfer in an undertow, they can swim really fast in the water, but if the water's moving away from the shore, they'll never make it back to the shore, right? And so that galaxy, the light from that galaxy is traveling through space at the speed of light, but if the space in between us and the galaxy is moving faster than light, then the poor light can never make it to us. We call that a horizon.
Wow. So the space is traveling too far for the light to reach us. So
Too fast. Space is
too fast.
So this light can't catch up with the expansion of space, and it never gets to us. And that galaxy disappears from our causal horizon, we call it. We'll never be able to see it. We'll never be able to interact with it. We'll never be, okay? And it could be that there are different regions so far away from us where space is expanding faster than light, which have a very different history than our own. So there could be, space could be infinite. Just our simple space that we know of and love could be infinite in extent, and different regions of that space had different histories. And some of those regions, everything we can see, we know emerged from a single point. Okay? We can tell that. We can tell that by measuring the Big Bang expansion of everything we see and working backwards. And the universe, our visible universe, was once smaller and smaller and smaller. If we go back in time, we can actually follow the laws of physics back to the earliest moments of the Big Bang until those laws break down, and we can make predictions about what the universe should look like. All those predictions agree exactly with the observations we make, which tell us that picture works. But another region, if you wish, could have come from a different Big Bang.
But is that another universe, or is it a part of the universe that we can't see?
Here's how we've changed. And this is semantics, but non-trivial semantics. Namely, when I was a kid, universe meant everything.
Everything, right.
But we say that's a pretty stupid definition. A better definition is an operational one. Universe means that region of space with which at one time we could have communicated, or one time in the future, even if the future is infinite, we might communicate with. Because that describes the region of space where cause and effect works.
Some measurable distance.
Yes. And so we think of a universe as that region which could, throughout which everything could affect everything else, ultimately, in an infinitely long time. And in that picture, universes can be restricted in size. And then other regions which could never have affected us, and which will never affect us in the future, we call other universes.
I see.
And now there are many different versions of a multiverse, but that's the simplest version. And this picture we call inflation, which I just did 2 little clips associated with the new book. One was for a publisher, and one was for Big Think. One is the universe in under 2 minutes. So you can look up online, look for Lawrence Krauss Explains the Universe in Under 2 Minutes, where I talk about this cosmic expansion and how it might mean there's a multiverse. But the other is I explain the universe in terms of this beer bottle that I talked about to you earlier. So that's a video. You can watch that. But this theory of inflation, which actually says our universe, the qualities that we see of our universe can best be explained if some early time in the history of the universe, when it was a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a second old, it had a huge expansion suddenly and increased in size by 30 orders of magnitude in size, in a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a billionth of a second, which is, by the way, particle physics suggests is highly plausible, even though, okay, and then it would produce a universe that looks more or less like we look like, and it's right now the only explanation of how that would cause the universe to look like what it looks like. But the neat thing about inflation is, it's eternal. So inflation, that puffing up, ended in our universe, and then boom, a hot Big Bang followed it. Okay, so the universe puffed up by a huge amount, then all of that energy, which was stored in empty space, got released, like the beer bottle, and we got a hot big bang, and the rest is history. But that's locally. But somewhere else, between us and there, space is still expanding exponentially. And faster and faster and faster. And only maybe somewhere else today, boom, like an ice crystal forming, boom, that region of space is suddenly left inflation. And maybe a gazillion years in the future, there'll be another region of space that's expanding away from us so much faster than light, so we'll never know about it, where suddenly that region leaves inflation, and boom, another hot big bang happens. And it turns out in each of those hot big bangs, after the inflation ends, depending upon how it ends, the laws of physics could be different in that universe. And so we tend to think it's quite likely that there are many, many separate regions of space, and in fact it's eternal. So such regions are forming eternally for all time. And there are hot big bangs happening in many regions. And the properties of each of those regions, whether they're conducive to forming galaxies and stars and planets and people, may be different. So we could say, logically in that picture, that the reason the universe looks like the way it does is because we're here to measure it.
Oh my God, we should leave it at that.
Okay.
We should close with that. That is the mind blower of mind blowers.
Good.
Episode number 1742 with Jimmy Corsetti, exploring the Eye of the Sahara as a potential Atlantis site.
So the Atlantis one.
Yeah, the Rishat structure. I was wondering if you saw those videos, Joe.
Yeah, no, that was a big one that I saw because I've been fascinated by the concept of Atlantis. You know, ever since I had these conversations with Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock about the Younger Dryas impact theory and this concept that somewhere in the roughly around 11,000, 12,000 years ago, we were hit by a series of comets. And it's pretty evident that that's a fact. If you do the core samples of the Earth, they find this nuclear glass all over the Earth that exists in that time period. And it seems like something happened that reset civilization. And there's very little evidence of advanced civilizations before that up until recently, up until the last couple of decades. They started uncovering things like Göbekli Tepe and all these other structures that are clearly from more than 12,000 years ago. And they're really complex and really large with enormous stones. And it's sort of caused people to rethink the history of the Earth and the history of human civilizations. And Atlantis has always been the big one. That has been the one that everybody talked about. It was this incredibly advanced civilization, and no one can figure out where it is.
Right.
Or if it was real.
I think that Atlantis, because surely that wouldn't have been necessarily the name just through like the change of language, over, let's say, 12, 13,000 years ago, which would be the time frame. So like surely there would be several different changes of language, but I think it represented a civilization that was doing great things. They were more global than what many people think would be possible. Atlantis was said to be a kingdom made up of, or an empire, made up of 10 kingdoms. And then there was the lost city of Atlantis, which was the capital, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 2 of water, 3 of land, and essentially that they were obliterated by a cataclysm as passed down by Plato, although it's worth mentioning that Plato got the story of Atlantis from Solon, who was his uncle separated by 6 generations. But what most people don't realize is that Solon had traveled to Egypt, and so it's the ancient Egyptians is where that tale comes from, which makes it even more bizarre because I would argue that the most spectacular ancient civilization is the Egyptians. I mean, no disrespect to the Romans.
Hard to deny.
Right? I mean, let me just say, because I want to, on this podcast, encourage people to travel to Egypt. Joe, you got to go.
I really want to. A friend of mine just went, and she got back, and she was telling me incredible things about it. Jamie, will you pull up the photos of these concentric circles? Tell him.
Yeah, the Rishat, R-I-C-H-A-T. It's worth mentioning
he's got it already here.
Yeah, in the first couple, I just want to say it's Rishat. I used to call it Ricot. I was mispronouncing it. But let me ask you this, Joe, real quick. When you saw my video, was that the very first time you had ever seen this thing before?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So many. When I first saw this, I was like, what the fuck is that? By the way, you see that white? All those white blemishes? That's salt. This was under the ocean. And people, let me just say, you mentioned Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock. I love them. And I know for sure that they don't particularly think this is the site for a few different reasons. So let me say there's absolute doubt. Even I am not 100% certain. I'm not even 100% certain Atlantis existed. What I am certain is that humans were doing spectacular things and a cataclysmic event happened called the Younger Dryas and reset something for somebody.
Is there a natural explanation for
Yes.
this formation?
Yes. So let me say that it is considered to be mysterious. They're not 100% certain of it. However, the consensus is that it was a volcanic dome that had risen and collapsed multiple times, like 100 million years ago, allegedly. I say allegedly. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I would like to know where sometimes they get these figures from. Like, explain to me why it was 100 million years ago and not 99 or 98, because here we are talking about how crazy things changed in just the last 12, 13,000 years. So when they throw around these numbers, 1 million years in itself is an incredibly long period of time. But getting back to your question, some had originally thought that maybe it was an impact site from an asteroid or perhaps, but there's no evidence for it. Like there's none of the
The problem is there's these concentric circles. I've never seen anything. I mean, obviously I'm not an archaeologist, but I've never seen anything like this if you study structures that are like man-made structures, I've never seen anything like this that humans have made, but I've definitely never seen go to that one where your cursor's on, Jamie.
Please.
So is this?
You want to see some? All right.
What is this? What am
Okay.
Okay. One step at a time, because we also have to take into consideration that people are just listening. So kind of describe what we're looking at here.
Okay. So what you're looking at is approximately 250 miles inland in the total barren desert of Mauritania, Africa. So the Western Sahara.
This image looks like. Why is it blue?
That's just showing you
what it used to look like?
No, this is what it looks like right now through, I forgot what you call this type of animation, but it's essentially a satellite imagery that they enhanced in order for you to see the difference in elevation and the actual structure to itself.
Okay, so if there was water in this area, you would see it this way, that it would be these concentric circles that are raised above the water, and then the water would be inside of it like that.
Well, just to clarify, this particular image, no, this is not trying to represent water. So that blue is actually picking up on salt. So
salt, all that was salt. But I mean, it used to be underwater, right? It's salt because it was underwater.
That's what I believe, and that's what makes the most sense to me. Others will disagree, and let me tell you why. It is currently 1,300 feet above sea level. It's 250 miles inland. And so some people say this was never under the ocean, at least not for the last tens of millions of years, is what the scientists claim. I argue that since the salt is still there, and not only that, Jamie, if you go to the other images that show you more of the white, the one that you were previously on, the one to the middle to the left, right there. So those areas with the most white blemishes happen to be the areas that are the lowest in elevation, which to me tells me that salt water had settled there. But not only that, Joe, Atlantis was said to be, like we said, multiple rings of, water and land. However, it was said to open to the sea to the south. And what you're looking at here, the south, so this is oriented north, south, east, and west. What do you see to the south? And especially if we could get another...
This is a very flat area that looks like it's the lowest elevation. Like around it looks like it's higher. I mean, it's hard to tell from this image.
Jamie, will you Google map it? Just type in... even if you went to Mauritania, so you could see this from space. Astronauts use it as a locator, and they weren't really familiar or aware of it until the Gemini missions in the early 1960s. So if you go to, if you just go to Google Earth, you'll be able to find this quite quickly. It stands out, and it's why they call it the Eye of Africa or the Eye of the Sahara. All right, so just pan out a little bit, and it'll provide us with keep going. All that white is salt. In fact, I had a friend, Josh Sigurdsson, that went out there and tasted that shit off the fucking ground. That's salt. Because a lot of people say, this was never under the ocean. And I'm like, all right, you see all that? Even Randall Carlson himself, which let me just say, he, for a few reasons, doesn't, he favors the Azores. He doesn't think this is likely to be the location for a few reasons.
He favors what?
The Azores, the island chain, which would be, it's
And he thinks that was Atlantis?
To him, he's partial towards that. But so he analyzed this site, and you see all those striations, how it looks like the ocean, so that's all water erosion, Joe. And if you scroll in, so remember when Randall was on your show and he showed you the Missoula floodplains and all those giant ripples from the huge current that it went through? This is here. So scroll in, right there where your cursor is, Jamie. Scroll right in. you're going to see those same water ripples. Keep going, because this what you're looking at here is panned out. This is many miles. Like, keep in mind, this structure is 30 miles
that's
across.
Crazy. That looks like the bottom of the ocean. Like if you see where the water breaks on the sand.
Yep. And I have
wow,
there's
that's
better
crazy.
pictures. And that, just to clarify, that white is salt, and that is because that's a lot of people don't know, Joe, that the Sahara Desert wasn't a thing until approximately 5,000 years ago. It's only in the last several years, and by the way, I'm quoting MIT research here, that the Sahara goes back and forth from green to desert approximately every 20,000 years. They believe it has something to do with the Earth's tilt, and that's worth discussing. But so this whole area, because people are like, well, that's not Atlantis. I'm like, well, first of all, if the Sahara Desert was a lush green tropical paradise, which had the largest known freshwater lakes ever known to have existed, for example, Mega Lake Chad, which it's like 3 times more water surface than all of the North American Great Lakes combined. It's a big sucker.
Holy shit. How's it not an ocean?
I know.
It's all fresh water?
It was when it existed, and that was at the time when the Sahara was green. And it also had some of the largest known rivers that were known to have existed throughout the world. I think they'd still be ranked 10th today or something like that. But so you have to, when you see this, people have to imagine that this area was once green, and that because one of the arguments I make is that the fact that that salt is on top of that dirt, to me, is indicative that the ocean flowed over here far more recently than what people think.
How wide is this structure?
Okay, so
these concentric circles.
I brought a laser. Do you have a laser pointer in here?
No.
That's okay. So the circles themselves is about 14.5 miles across. However, if you go the complete shebang, the whole circle itself is just shy of 30 miles.
So the whole thing is 30 miles, which would be like the size of a city.
Right. Well, keep in mind the outer ring would have been water, so that wouldn't have necessarily counted. But some people will say that this is too big according to Plato's description. And let me just say that I'm like, well, hold on a second. I don't think that we should consider that, because of loss of translation, that we should consider the measurements a key detail. The question becomes, is it big enough to be a city with possibly millions of people? Because the way it was described is that it was a city that was said to be busy all day, all night, rich in trade, with languages spoken from all over. So I'm like, okay, that would imply millions of people. I mean, if a city's busy all day and all night, I think of large metropolitan areas like New York, Chicago, London, whatever. And so if this was indeed an ancient or a site of an ancient civilization, well, then it would have. I mean, they're obviously not going to have skyscrapers, so it would have to be an area big enough to sustain that many people, and the Richat structure certainly does.
And so the idea would be that this would lead out to the ocean, and that these circles would be where the water is, and then the ridges would be where the structures are, where the houses and the buildings are.
And people will say, well, where is that stuff now? I'm like, well, look at it. It got obliterated.
Those people should shut the fuck up.
well,
but if you just look at what's going on with the sand and those clear water erosion marks on the sand, but that also could be wind, right? Couldn't the way that the ripples in that sand, couldn't that be wind?
Both. However, just to clarify.
Is that sand that is where the cursor's at right there?
Yes, that's all sand. However, it's also actually to the right where it says layers, Jamie, can you scroll in right there? Because that will show you the ripples more. So it's a combination of sand and rock.
You mean to the left?
Right
left?
there. That's what I'm talking about. Those are giant ripples. And I'm quoting Randall Carlson, who I consider to be an expert on geological formations. And so, yeah.
Right, but isn't that what wind-driven sand looks like? If you go to dunes look like that.
Yeah, and undoubtedly.
But hold on, this is sand, right?
Yes, well, it's a combination, rock and sand in between.
Right, but this is like what it would look like if wind-driven sand and rock underneath it.
Right, so what the implication is that it was blasted by water, and then after that, the wind has done its thing and moved the sand all over it and in between.
So 20,000 years ago, this was all green, lush forest?
No, Joe. 5,000.
5,000?
So
really?
So I could show you.
When did they think Atlantis was?
11,600 is allegedly when it was destroyed, which mirrors the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe. Because so Plato so this is 600 BC, and Plato said that it happened 9,000 years earlier. So that would be 11,600 years ago, which coincides with the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe, which makes it so compelling. To me, that is actual scientific evidence that indicates that Atlantis actually existed? Because it's very
sort of.
specific.
It is very specific, but it's not scientific, right? It's
Well-
like there's no real evidence.
Okay, let me
It's just
rephrase. That a civilization,
depiction.
yes,
Yeah.
let me rephrase. A civilization got fucked.
Yeah.
11,600. So never mind Atlantis. Let me rephrase. A civilization was around. The stories of it were passed down, and they got obliterated. So that's what I'm implying.
Well, we definitely know that the Younger Dryas impact theory is extremely plausible. There are, without a doubt, like many impact points on Earth where they find this tritonite, this nuclear glass, which you can get either from a nuclear explosion or you get it from some sort of a meteor impact, large scale, all over the continent. And we know that all over the planet, I should say. We know that happened. Like, this is like real hardcore geological evidence. So if we know that there were structures before that, which we do now because of Göbekli Tepe and a few other places that they're reasonably sure were pre 11,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, then we know that something was around back then that was very sophisticated. How sophisticated, we don't know.
Episode number 1234. Wesley Huff examines historical evidence for Jesus' death and resurrection, addressing eyewitness claims, ancient sources. And episode number 2331. Jesse Michaels discusses new evidence supporting Bob Lazar and S4's secret programs. Joe Rogan breaks down the mysteries surrounding Epstein, hidden files, and powerful connections.
The Epstein files is a hoax.
Bro, the fucking Epstein thing is just
Nothing but a hoax.
it's just I don't even understand. I don't get it. It is the easiest political victory. Like if you just
It is,
do
but
it
it isn't. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm not supporting anything. Just be really clear, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
But if you have relationships with all these insanely wealthy people that are going to be
Hurt by this?
severely impacted by this, like this is the ultimate political football. Because I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know who the people are, but I've heard things. And if those things are true, you're dealing with some of the most powerful people in the world, some of the wealthiest people
They gotta go
in
down.
the world.
they got to go down.
Yeah, well, it depends on what they did, right? It's like, did you go over there and have sex with a 24-year-old and do coke? Or did you go...
Totally fine.
Right. Or did you go over there? But here's...
Wouldn't you want that out? I would want that out. If
Yeah, but
I was
you wouldn't
attached-
want that out because, like, how do you... You're connected to pedophilia, no matter what.
Oh, right, because you're
instead of
like,
Epstein's Island.
she was 24, and then
Yeah.
someone's going to go, well, did you ID her? And you're like, well, no, I didn't ID her.
But did you see underage girls?
Yeah.
Were you there? Are you complicit?
So you
know?
don't want to even be around it.
Right. Well, you can't be around it. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy 100% had sexual relationships with underage girls at least in Florida.
Convicted.
And convicted.
This is-
Yeah. And so and you knew that when you were meeting him. That's the Bill Gates thing that's the craziest.
Not
After
only
the guy,
Bill Gates, the Stephanopoulos guy. Like a bunch of them went over there.
a lot of people went over there. A lot of scientists went over there, and I think those guys thought they were going over there for this beautiful place where you can go. This guy's donating money to science. You're hanging out with movie stars. This intellectual discourse. So tell me about string theory.
Yeah.
Well, it's really fascinating. One things we've learned, and you're having cocktails like this
Yeah.
place is great,
Yeah.
and then you can get your dick sucked.
It's like a Diddy party for nerds.
Exactly.
You know, it's
Exactly.
and a lot of people went to those parties.
Those kind of honeypot operations, they let these freaks know, like, hey, you're going to be safe with me. Charlie will take care of everything. Look, Bill Clinton used to come here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go to the
And
island.
that's a big endorsement. It's like presidents were here, so it must be a
Yes.
secure area.
Exactly.
I can get
we
down.
are on the island with Bill. This
Yeah.
is fine.
And
We're
all these
fine.
girls show up, and you're like, well, this is Christmas in July.
Bill is really interested in string theory. He'd like to talk to you about string theory. So you're sitting down there having cocktails while Bill Clinton's getting a massage from some girl who's rubbing her tits against the back of his head while she's massaging you.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, that's really interesting. Hey, I'm kind of tired. I'm gonna take a nap.
Another thing about black holes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they all thought that it was this lovely exchange of powerful people and brilliant people. And then they were just getting dirt on all of them. Guys cheating on their wives, guys, whether knowingly or unknowingly, having sex with underage girls.
Everybody
And some,
wants to
maybe
be.
some guys, that was their thing.
Sure.
Because it seemed like with Epstein, that was his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I don't think there's any evidence to either. I think it's all been. I don't think there was collected with that plea deal, and I don't think there's any list that's going to point to. There's no smoking gun. That's
I
all
don't know
been-
about that.
I think it's all been taken care of. I think that it's. I think you could open up every file.
But that's the truth. Why did they have all those files? Why did they parade around with these binders?
Because
and
a
say,
lot of-
do you remember those
Yeah.
photo ops that they said? Like, look, they did like a thing. We have the Epstein files right here,
Right.
and they had binders. Like, what kind of political theater is that? If you don't really have the Epstein
It
files,
was
like,
probably
what is
theater. And what I mean by that is I think like if they are keeping something quiet, it's because it's video of underage girls or it's video of the victims who don't want that to be out there. And the Justice Department cannot make that public. They cannot bring that to Congress. That's all sealed for their privacy, right?
Well, that is the argument. But then they're saying now that there are no files. They're saying there's no video.
I believe that. Don't you?
I don't know. I think they have video. I think if you've got an island and you want compromise on people, you can't just have hearsay.
I would say I would agree.
I watched him fuck that girl. Let's sue him. No, that's not how it works. You have to have video, and then you have to show it to the guy. Like, Mr. Clinton, have a seat.
Yeah. But I would agree with that, except for I think if there is video, that's somewhere in the archives of an intelligence agency. That's not getting out. And I think when he had that plea deal in 2008, he got tipped off, remember? And when the feds or whoever, when I think it was the Florida Police Department came to kind of collect all the evidence in Palm Beach, those computers weren't there anymore. So all that shit was scrubbed. All that shit was taken out. So, and part of a plea deal is you don't collect evidence. There is no evidence. When you have a plea deal, nobody is collecting any evidence. You understand? Right. So it's not like we're going to collect evidence. No. The part of the plea deal is this investigation is over. You plead, you do your time in this jail where you can go out and play golf during the day, but you have to come back at night.
He was under home arrest. He would only have to go there like a couple days a week.
Right. He'd have to go to the county jail in Palm Beach during the day. Right. So that's what I'm saying is I think all that shit
I think he did like weekends. I think he did like weekends in the jail. I'm not kidding. I think they allowed him to work.
Money talks, baby.
It's not just money talks, it's influence. And the guy who was the arresting sheriff was told this guy was intelligent. Yeah, that's what he was told. So I would assume that guy's telling the truth because he's a sheriff. He's got no reason to lie, or whoever he was.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of super powerful people that are very, very, very wealthy, and they have the ability to say whether or not things get out.
In episode 1686, Ari Shafir describes his intense ayahuasca trip and the visions that transformed him.
So they lead you from a hut that you're staying down. They stop. They go, stop, listen to the insects in the river. He goes, that's going to be amplified soon. And you're like, okay. And he comes, and the woman, the shaman wears this headdress, and she beats you with these leaves and rubs this, says whatever chant she says and rubs this stone all over you. Gives you the ayahuasca. It tastes like fucking ass. Tastes like whatever's left in this ashtray. And you just drink it down. They say, your partner, she's on the other side of the fire. You're on this side of the fire. You don't talk. He's having his trip. You're having your trip. That's it. You might throw up because that is the ayahuasca doesn't make you trip. The ayahuasca takes everything out of you, and then I have it written down actually. Chacruna was
it's a different drug.
Yeah. So ayahuasca clears you unless a chacruna, in this case, do it. They showed me where the ayahuasca came from. Planted 80 years before. Wow. They planted it. So drank it. I'm laying there on a mat, just like a thin mat next to this fire in this like hut. I'm a bit worried about like anacondas and jaguars and stuff, but like, so she says, the shaman says, I'm your mother here. The ayahuasca, the root is your grandmother. My son, who's training to be a shaman, he is your brother. And the fire is your ancestors. So I drank it. He said, stare at the fire for about 5 minutes, then go lay down. My partner started throwing up 10 minutes in. Going to the edge. There's 2 entrances to the thing. Throwing up. Just wasn't coming. It wasn't coming. A little bit of like a light cap and a stem mushroom feel for about, I don't know, hour and a half or so. And then I started getting nauseous, but I'm trying to choke it down, like don't. And then it hit me like, oh, I think I'm supposed to throw up. So I kind of like pitch black, away from the fire, went to the edge, and then like, you know how you can like sort of like, and then barfed like a little bit, and then just unloaded. I was afraid it would be like retching. It wasn't that. Just like unloaded. And then he's right there. The shaman's like trainee son with a bowl of water. He goes, swish around, don't drink it. And he goes, are you having visions? Dude, I don't know how he was. I don't know how he was communicating with me, to be honest, because I barely speak Spanish and he barely speaks Spanish. But
enough,
I guess. He was like, are you having visions? And I was like, yeah, they're more like kind of mental, like a mental mushrooms, mental. And he goes, okay, go back, be strong. I don't know how he was conveying this to me. But he was like, okay, go be strong, go lay down there, and like, you have to like be strong. So then it just opened up. And
so more than an hour and a half in?
More than an hour and a half in. Of a 7-hour trip.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a while. The partner was going immediately. But like, I see these like fractals and like geometric shapes and occasional like splashes of, and this is the thatch roof of the hut, right? So nothing's there. And an occasional like real splash of like vivid neon light. And then I started seeing these like orbs kind of like going up into the fractals. And then the more I looked forward and back, I'm on my back, but the more I look forward, backward, side to side, there's just hundreds or thousands of these orbs, these small orbs going up into the fractals and just sort of like playing with each other. These orbs, they were kind of like had a life to them. So like, and then at some point from me comes this orb and sort of like goes up. And then I started examining what the orbs are. So look, I don't know. I don't know about any of this stuff. But this is just what it gave me. I don't know, same as mushrooms. I don't know if it's just scientific or if it's like another realm, whatever.
Right.
The orbs were, I call it when you pure something, when you pure it. To me, they were moments of pure artistic expression. You ever have a set or a roll where you're like, I hit every fucking move.
You get in the zone.
You in the zone, sure. You pured it. In golf, Jamie, you might know, it was like when you fucking hit one and you just like fucking like up, or you're like, I can't hit the green from here. You do see it go perfectly and bounce. And it's just a pure moment of artistic expression. And generally when I see that, it makes me cry. When I listen to Nevermind, I tear up. You ever hear that album where you're like, oh, this is, they nailed it. They nailed it.
They nailed it.
Sagrada de Familia in Barcelona, this church it's being built still. It was a 200-year plan to build the perfect church.
St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Okay. And you see it.
Stunning.
And I went in there and I started weeping.
Start crying.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's just like, it's perfect. Overwhelmingly perfect.
Yeah. It's art.
Yeah. Other moments, I was at it doesn't have to be big moments. It could be small moments. I was at the haunted ride at Disney back in LA. And I was with some chick and I was like, some guy was like, right this way, and like, he's playing the role, whatever. And then like he left to go greet the next like car, and as we were slowly moving forward. And then I was like, oh, that guy was creepy, right? And then he was back on me, just going, what did you say? It just like frightened me. And I'm like, that guy nailed it. In that moment, we were both fucking jumped. He fucking nailed it.
Right.
He pured it. And what you want in those moments, you did it, right? You made this thing, and that's the orb. And what you want is to make it for sure. But what you also want is some recognition. You want someone to say, like, if you hit that golf shot, you look around, like if you're playing by yourself, and somebody that next to you is like, dude, fucking nice one. You're like, yes, thank you. You saw it. You saw it.
Right.
And so there's been two things I've gotten that way. Two things that I've had that I'm like, I pured it. One was that storytelling show. This is not happening. I just think it was like, I mean, I don't want to talk about myself, but like it was cool, and
you nailed
it was a way for other comics to show themselves.
No,
and
you did. I can express it for you. You did an amazing thing, and those opening sequences where you'd have like these animated fight scenes and shit, they were awesome.
They were cool. It was just made it cool and fun to watch, and let people go like, hey, we're not going to censor you.
Right.
We want you to do your thing. Your fucking strip club in the woods story is like these moments that I'm also allowing other people to like.
Yeah.
So I figured out my orbs. What I do is make stuff myself, and then also give a chance for other people to make theirs. It's one of my things I like making. You have the same thing where you like having other people make their things. It's one of your art forms is allowing other people to make their art. Another one was this last hour I did, the Jew hour. It was good. It was really it was good. And so it had bothered me at the time. I wasn't able to like make it as special, but I was able in that moment to go, but I made it. It was good. I made a really really mindful, kind of perfect thing. And yeah, maybe whatever happened, like I wasn't able to make like millions of people saw it, but like thousands of people saw it. Maybe 150,000 people saw it live, but like I made it. And I cried hard for that, for this not happening. Not so much that like for the loss, but for like when I was able to
purity.
I was able to step back and go like, it's done now. I made it, and it hit me like, oh damn, dude, that was fucking good. And I just kind of said goodbye to it. And that orb went up and played for eternity. Every time you do something like artistically pure like that and nail it, you pure it, those things are up there in the heavens, in the whatever. They're playing with each other. All the forms, that guy at Disney, the guy who made the Basilica,
Right.
Fucking Kurt Cobain, not Kurt Cobain, never mind, is up there playing with each other, enjoying each other's company forever. And I saw myself in 50 years dead, and the orbs are still playing. And I'm decaying, and the orbs are still playing. They'll be there forever. And I was able to sort of like put that behind me and say, I'll move on to my next thing. Because what I want to do is I want to make things, right? I want to make another orb. And that's kind of all I want to do now, is just make another thing. And I won't always get there. But even if you fail, even if you're like, that set was so, you know it's getting you closer to a fucking perfect set. And sometimes it's just a 15-minute set at the fucking whatever club, you know? Governors or some shit where it's like, I fucking nailed it. Sometimes it's a 10-minute pop in. You're like, that earthquake thing that I saw at the Ha-Ha, that was one. Because there was some kid, some young 1-year comic watching that going like, oh my God. He fucking pured it in that moment.
Yeah.
But what you want is someone to fucking notice it once in a while.
Episode number 2026 with Peter Berg uncovers FDA manipulation and the Sacklers' billion-dollar opioid empire.
A family was able to make so much money.
How much money did they make in total?
I mean, if you Google their value, it's between 10 and 20 billion reported. Nobody knows exactly how much. They're a really secretive family. One of the most internet scrubbed families, and Richard Sackler in particular, people I've ever encountered. You just can get very little information on them.
Wow.
But, you know, and the other, I think, big part of the story that surprised me was the FDA, right? And the FDA's role in opioid approvals. And in the case of OxyContin, you know, we think about like the FDA as this big, giant bureaucratic organization. And, you know, you think, we were talking about stem cells a little bit earlier, that if you want to get an approval for a drug, you know, and well, okay, you got to send it to the FDA, and it's going to be reviewed by this massive board of scientists and, you know, experts, and they're going to make a determination after careful analysis, right? That's not how it works. And in the case of OxyContin, the whole approval process came down to this one guy, this guy named Curtis Wright. And Curtis Wright, when Purdue Pharma needed the FDA to approve, they'd spent $30 million developing this drug. The whole business of drug developing is fascinating, but they were all in, and they needed this drug, and to keep the company alive, they needed the FDA to approve it. And this guy was like, I can't approve this. This is heroin in a pill. No. Well, and they kept trying to get him to approve it, and they started trying to like pump his ego up. They started writing articles with him. They started trying to, you know, schmooze him and charm him. He wouldn't approve it. Finally, and no one knows the facts, they took him to a hotel on the East Coast. Purdue Pharma took Curtis Wright of the FDA, spent a couple of days in this hotel room. They came out of the hotel room with an approval, with the language, OxyContin, quote, is believed to be non-addictive, is believed. If you think about that language, it had never been used in an approval process before, ever. Made no sense. Is believed. Not is not, but is believed to not be addictive. A year later, he leaves the FDA, where he's making probably $50,000 a year. Where does he go work? Purdue Pharma.
Ugh.
For $400,000+ a year.
Ugh.
They bought the approval.
But the 2 days in the hotel, what the fuck did they do?
Nobody knows.
And who agrees to stay in a hotel for 2 days with those people?
I wrote a scene in Painkiller. We were putting it together where we imagined what happened in that hotel.
Right.
And I had like everything from monkeys to like kickboxing, Thai kickboxing, massage parlors, to like everything. I wanted to film the most debaucherous 2-day like anything your mind could think of, like the craziest of the right?
Water sports.
All of it. Like jet water sports, like with they spray your house down with sandblasting, like just the crazy, and we wrote it like this just Faustian orgy of absolute decadence, and the lawyers called and they're like, "Are you fucking kidding me? We can't do this." So we just shut the door.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's episode 3 that's it. But he took a job.
But there's conspiracies today that are real. And this Sackler family is one of the best examples of one that was enormously successful and worked on multiple levels. And this story about getting this regulator to approve it by putting him in a hotel for 2 weeks, how the fuck is that not illegal? Like, how is that not illegal?
I mean, they handle themselves. He spent a year still working for the FDA before he came and worked for Purdue, and it's pretty intense. I just saw a video that I don't know whether it was TMZ or somebody found the guy, the Curtis Wright, up in, I think he's in New Hampshire, just like 2 days ago, and they kind of went after him.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, they're like, "What do you say? What do you have to say about the show? What do you think?" And he got in his car and wouldn't talk. And then they just interviewed the local police chief for this town in New Hampshire, who said that, "Well, we had no idea that this guy's living in our town. I want to take him on a tour of our morgue and our cemeteries and show him." I think you'll find Curtis Wright if you look him up.
That is the definition of living in hell.
Yeah. And now, and that's, I think that people have asked, like, what is justice? What does justice even look like in a situation like this, right? Like, if you're...
That's the guy?
And the red, so that's Noah who plays him. And that was just...
that's the actual
That's
guy.
the actual gentleman who approved it. That's the guy who went and worked for...
So he just moved to a remote town.
Moved to a remote town, and after our show came out, I think
Is that a gun on his hip?
I don't think so.
What is that?
It's like a flashlight. He's got like a rig. Looks like
He's got this phone in the front.
Yeah, he's got a whole vibe going on.
And a passport filled with trips to Thailand, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
But like that's the face of a big part of the issue. That this guy was a bureaucrat working for the FDA, living his life in the East Coast. Someone came along and said, "Hey, you want to get out of here? You're making $50,000. Just say that you believe this to be less addictive. That'll get us the approval, and you're good. We're going to make you good." And here we are.
And that revolving door still exists today. That people go from the FDA right into pharmaceutical companies today.
For sure.
And it's so weird that that's legal.
And another big part of the game are these medical journals, right? Like there's something called the New England Journal of Medicine. And like a big thing is for a doctor these journals are owned by the pharmaceutical companies, right? So think about it. You own Purdue Pharma. You either buy or control medical journals that write favorable articles about your products, about your drugs. So in the case of OxyContin, there was a small, like almost a letter to the editor written about OxyContin being less than 1% addictive in a medical journal, which sounds like official and like, okay, well, damn, Joe is in a medical journal.
Right.
Let's go. But these are controlled by drug companies, and they're not legit. It's fake news. It's real fake news, and it's all part of the ecosystem of selling drugs. And these are the big drug dealers. Like we talk about Chapo or Pablo Escobar. Eric Newman, my buddy who was the exec producer on this, he produced Narcos, and went deep on Pablo Escobar. And he's like, when he first said, "You want to do this?" He's like, "These are the real drug dealers. These are the drug dealers putting up the real numbers." And they're the drug dealers who put their name on museums like the Metropolitan, the Guggenheim, the Louvre in Paris. These are the big time, hard hitting drug dealers.
They're real gangsters.
Oh, they're fucking gangsters, man.
It's such a gangster move to put your name everywhere too.
And
especially on like education institutions.
Dude, have you ever
Museums.
been in the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Temple of Dender, the giant glass? It's the biggest exhibit in the Met in New York City, and that was the Sackler wing. And I would go in there when we were making the show, and it was this giant. It's on the north side of the Met. It's a massive art wing, and you go in there. It says the Sackler wing, and you go in there, and there's parents running around with their kids. The last time I was there, I saw a guy get on his hands and knees and propose, and it's just this happy, joyful room built on OxyContin. And 2-3 months ago, they took the name down. They finally took the name down.
Finally?
Yeah,
after all these years.
Yeah, so they've taken, and this is the thing that, like, what Arthur Sackler cared more about than anything, which is like the same as Alfred Nobel, right? You know that Alfred Nobel made dynamite. That's how he made his money. It was a fascinating story that Nobel was the inventor of dynamite. It's almost like an Oppenheimer situation.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the story is that someone ran a false obituary. They thought he died, and they called him a merchant of death. The great merchant of death is gone. This guy, Nobel, who invented dynamite. And at that moment, he realized, fuck, this is how I'm going to be known. This is going to be my legacy, the merchant of death. He took a huge chunk of his fortune and started the Nobel Peace Prize. So when you hear the name Nobel, you don't think about dynamite, right? He invented dynamite, hand grenades and howitzer rounds and munitions. That was all Nobel. Now you just think, oh my God, Barack Obama just won the, Dalai Lama just won the, Martin Luther King and won the, like, this guy made it off of dynamite.
That's insane.
Right? And so the Sacklers were like the same thing. Wait a minute. We know what we're selling here. We know where our money's coming from.
Look at that.
Merchant
of Death to Pioneer of Nobel Prize.
The Nobel Peace Prize was a big bait and switch. So nobody thought about the fact that this dude, you know, go look at the body count of Vietnam. And
this is interesting. He said many saw his invention, what Alfred thought would end all wars, just like Oppenheimer, as a highly lethal product. When Alfred's brother Ludwig died in 1888, a French newspaper accidentally published an obituary for Alfred that referred to him as the Merchant of Death. Wow.
Right? Did you know that?
I did not. That's a mind blower. But it makes sense because that's how evil fucks are. They'll try to cover up what they're doing with humanitarian work.
100%. And that's what the Sacklers did. Like, okay, we're selling heroin and pills. We're like 300, we're up to 300,000 deaths and a lot of wrecked families. Let's buy some art. Let's donate to multiple medical schools, get our names on medical schools all around the country. Let's throw our name up on the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Guggenheim, the Louvre in Paris. They were putting their names on anything they could. There was a bridge in London that one of the Sacklers, the Sackler Bridge, like just anything to take your eye off the ball. And so to me, you know, whether they end up paying $6 billion or $16 billion, yeah, that's real. That's deserved money. But I think the bigger issue is the name. The evisceration of the name is in deep process right now.
As it should be.
Yes.
And I just wonder how they're going to get away with it without paying criminal penalties. I mean, not just criminal penalties, but like going to jail.
It's hard to go to jail today if you've got a lot of money, Joe.
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's a jail. I can't imagine the Sacklers going to jail, but I think worse than jail is the fact that the name is now done.
Yeah,
and that hurts because this was a family that was all about the legacy, and that's over.
This guy that approved it, what was his name again?
Curtis
the
Wright.
guy that they found. Imagine being that guy. Because you didn't even get rich. You know, you got kind of rich. You made a lot of money, but you didn't get like billionaire, I can just go hide on an island rich. You're in a small town in New Hampshire, and then they find you when the series comes out.
Yeah, I never know like someone's morality. Like I always have trouble like understanding how different people process morality and like what it would mean for, because you gotta assume a guy like that after 25 years has figured out a way of justifying to himself what he's done, right? Like we all do that. Like, I mean, we justify our behaviors. We don't engage in behavior like that, but whatever we do, we justify it. And I wonder how much it hurts. Like we tried to contact Richard Sackler several times during the he used to live here in Austin, and we couldn't find him. He has a house here in Austin still. But how it feels, there's never been a moment where there's been any kind of accountability, where, Richard Sackler comes out and says, okay, look, I am really fucking sorry. Let's just start with that. I am so sorry that this has happened. I am so sorry for the pain. And I can't undo it. But I want to first acknowledge that I'm sorry. I made some really bad decisions. I thought I was helping people. I wasn't. I didn't. There was never been, and I think that's where the anger comes from, so much of it.
In episode 2038 with Trey the Truth, Joe Rogan questions Mexico's alien skeletons and strange MRI claims.
That's what Bob Lazar thinks that spaceship that he worked on was made with. He thinks it was somehow 3D printed because it has no seams. You paying attention to this UFO shit? No? Good for you.
No, but I know you do, so I'm gonna ask because it's like this shit just, there's so much shit that's just coming out now. I don't understand what's the motive behind it just randomly coming out now.
Yeah, I'm super suspicious.
So what's the place? Area
51?
Area 51.
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming that shit has been real.
That's real. Yeah. But Area 51 was used for all sorts of training purposes. They had all sorts of programs that were running out there. I think that's where they developed the B-52. Is that where they developed it, in Area 51? They developed a bunch of different military technologies out there.
So nothing was true about the...
We don't know. We don't know. It's all just guessing about whether or not they're working on UFOs. But they were definitely working on other stuff, too. It's a legitimate military base.
So you think these videos real that's coming out? Or you think it's...
I think the videos are real. What they're filming, I don't know what that is. It could be that it's some super sophisticated U.S.-controlled drone that was built in some sort of program that's top secret, and it has some new super sophisticated propulsion system that they don't want us to know about. And so they pretend it's coming from another world. And they say, oh, these are off-world crafts exhibiting behavior that's impossible to replicate in America. I wonder. Because if they're talking about it like that, they're literally saying off-world, like, boy, I get suspicious. I get suspicious because they're not super honest about anything.
No,
why would they be honest about spaceships?
Then it just randomly happens now.
Yeah, it's another nice distraction. It gets people all excited. The fucking fake little Mexican UFO baby.
They're doubling down.
No, they're not.
They took it. This is from the MRI yesterday. They said it's one skeleton.
Where did they find that at?
Like they're trying. Other like American scientists are saying, well, then let people test samples of it or something. But
did they have images from the MRI?
I don't know that they showed those actual images, but the doctor that took it, he said right here, they belong to a single skeleton that has not been joined to other pieces.
Interesting. Footage from the team carrying out the tests shows one of the bodies bearing an elongated head, a small upturned nose, and two slanted eyes. The subjects look tiny when held up by the doctors examining the watching journalists. Huh.
Then this also is like this person says that I think it's the doctor has claimed that he talks to the Virgin of Guadalupe, and the extraterrestrials will not talk to her like they talk to him because she doesn't believe in them.
Maybe he does drugs. Maybe it's telling the truth. Maybe he did talk to the Virgin of Guadalupe. So that's what it's supposed to be. I want to see what those images look like. They don't have them.
You ever notice how none of the images be clear?
Yeah.
On shit like
real
that
problem.
we really want to see.
Yeah, it's a real problem. I talked to this one guy, Christopher Mellon. He used to be an intelligence agent, and he said that they do have clear footage. It just hasn't been leaked, but that he's aware of it, and some of it is pretty mind-blowing, he said.
Damn.
Show me. Until I see it. I don't know, man. I feel like a dummy because I want to believe in it so bad. That's the problem. Because it's so fun. You know, the idea of spaceships coming here from another galaxy. That's amazing.
I don't know how fun, especially if they ain't friendly.
Well, if they weren't friendly, we'd already be fucked, right? I mean, if they've been coming here forever, supposedly, and they haven't hurt us yet, we're probably okay. You know? I think they're probably observing us. They're probably, if they are coming from another world, they're probably making sure we don't blow ourselves up. They're probably realizing that we're at this convergence of the evolution of the biology and then science and technology and its abilities that far surpass like the speed that the biology evolves. Like the biology evolves very slowly relatively compared to these computers. The things that they're able to do, these spaceships and the flying cars, and it's like we have so much ability now, and we're still the same kind of creature. We're still humans, you know, but now we have this insane ability to blow up a whole country. Like we have nuclear bombs. We're all pointing them at each other, and there's enough to wipe out the whole world. Like if I was an alien, I'd be like, let's keep an eye on these crazy fucks. You know, these people are wild. Let's keep an eye on them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm gonna keep my distance from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to fly to Mars. I don't want to do none of that shit. I just, man, live my life.
Yeah. It's going to be a long time before people get comfortable moving to Mars.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to be, but that's a fucking commitment.
Didn't they have somebody recently go? Are they letting people go now?
No, they haven't let people go yet. They've sent drones. So they have the Mars rover that goes around on Mars, but that's just a robot. But the idea is to have people on Mars. I think, didn't Elon say by like 2035 or something like that, he wants man trip to Mars?
That's crazy. You keep saying his name. He's the only, he doing whatever the fuck he want to do at this point. Yeah.
He's a wild fella.
In episode 1904, Neil deGrasse Tyson reveals surprise $129.99. Annie Jacobson reveals how Nazi scientists were brought to America after World War II.
I mean, I wrote a book about Operation Paperclip, and my God, talk about a rabbit's hole.
That's a rabbit hole.
It's a rabbit hole.
Let's explain to people that don't know what we're talking about. Operation Paperclip was when, after World War II, the United States gathered up a ton of scientists from Nazi Germany, brought them over to America, and even Wernher von Braun. They had Wernher von Braun run NASA. He was a Nazi, like 100% Nazi.
Good friends with Hitler type Nazi.
Yes, he ran a Berlin rocket factory where they hung the 5 slowest Jews. They would hang them out front so everybody would know, like, this is what happens when you work slow. We'll hang you. I mean, the Simon Wiesenthal Center said that if Wernher von Braun was alive today, they would prosecute him for crimes against humanity.
Yes, they would.
And that was the head of NASA. That was the head of NASA. That was the guy who got us to the moon. That was the big cheese guy. Yeah. So we were willing to put a lot of really dark things aside in order to gather up the best scientists so that the Soviet Union couldn't get them all. And they got a few of them as well. But we got how many? More than 1,000, right?
Allegedly 1,400, but I would not be surprised if, the story changes and there were more, right?
Yeah.
But that goes back to our discussion earlier about being in pole position. I mean, that's why we grabbed those Nazis. We were like, if we don't get them, the Russians will.
I get it. And, and I'm sure the Nazis could say, I didn't want to do it. They made me. I'm a nice person. I love Jews.
Well, that was part of the mythology. It was like, we got the good Germans. Well, no, we didn't.
Right.
We got the top Germans, and who do you think the top Germans were?
Yeah.
They were coveted by Hitler, Himmler, Göring,
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were right. I mean, there were guys that we grabbed out of the docks at Nuremberg, literally, to come be part of our program. You know,
one of these guys. You're smart. You're an asset, right? I mean, that's what Genghis Khan used to do. He'd take warlords from the other side and capture them and go, listen, just come over here, bro. Come on, work for me. I'm the man.
I mean, what, you know, ideology aside, I'm super smart and I want that to be known. That's kind of that's the competitor, right? I mean, you cannot be the best rocket designer in the world and not want those talents, you know, demonstrated. That's Werner von Braun's story. That's the story of all of them. And that was so shocking writing that book, because it's like, wow, you know, huge amounts of talent, but how far will the competitor go to see their baby come to fruition? What are they willing to put aside? Yeah.
Did you pay any attention to the other places where Nazis went when they escaped Germany, like Argentina in particular? Have you ever seen any of that stuff? Where they have entire German towns down in Argentina.
Gosh, right?
They do Oktoberfest down there. They wear lederhosen. They drink out of steins. It's crazy. They speak German. And you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, my friend Tim Kennedy went down there, and he said he was literally talking to people, interviewing people, and they had photos of SS soldiers on their wall, and they would talk about how grandfather was a hero, and they're like, you're the descendants of escaped Nazis, and they put together a town down there.
I mean, the way the Nazis were able to flee is I can't read enough of that. I mean, that's what Jamie and I were talking about. It's like,
dark.
Oh my God. And it's endless. I mean, they're so, you know, the ones that there was a famous guy that we got. He was the Surgeon General of the Third Reich. I mean, think about that, okay? Dr. Walter Schreiber. I mean, he was such a bad dude. He was in charge of the vaccine program. I mean, you just put those words together and your mind goes really dark, right? But we wanted him because he was an expert in vaccines. And we brought him to the United States. He was the only Nazi I found of the ones, the paperclip scientists who came here, that was actually outed. Right? He was outed as a Nazi, and that's because one of the investigators at the Nuremberg trials recognized him.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's the only one we got out of here. And guess where he went?
Argentina.
And lived out the rest of his life there.
The show was called Finding Hitler. They were trying to find evidence that Hitler somehow escaped. It was really a bullshit premise of the show, but what was interesting is that there were thousands and thousands of Nazis that made it to Argentina and set up shop. It's throughout South America. There's a lot of Germans down there. It's kind of weird.
If you can imagine me on book tour of like the kind of questions I get, because we're talking, right? Having written books about Area 51, Nazis,
Jesus.
right? Assassins.
How are you still alive?
People, I mean, just last night I was at a book giving a signing, and people are like, "Is Hitler really dead?" You know?
Oh God!
Right?
What if he was alive? He'd be the oldest man alive,
right?